Coming up this week on Talk with Audrey, licensed landscape contractor Sarah Bendrick has some money-saving tips for creating an eco-friendly lawn and garden without breaking the bank. Lifestyle expert Yvette Rios reveals the hidden gotchas in wireless plans, along with which plans could give you the best device upgrades. Dr. Christine Gilroy, Chief Medical Officer at Express Scripts, has information about what you should know before heading to the pharmacy to fill a prescription. And Dr. Ken Gianava, chair of the Stop the Bleed Committee of the American College of Surgeons Committee on Trauma, talks with me about a program that empowers people to help control bleeding injuries until help arrives. It's all coming up this week on Talk with Audrey. Insightful, intelligent, and inspiring conversations and information to help you improve the quality of your life. I'll be right back after this. You're watching Talk with Audrey. Welcome back. So, do you want to boost your backyard without busting your budget? I know a lot of homeowners are spending more time outdoors and looking for ways to care for their yard in an eco-friendly way, from making better plant choices to growing their own food and even adopting battery-powered technologies. My guest today is licensed landscape contractor Sarah Bendrick, and she has some money-saving tips for creating an eco-friendly lawn and garden without breaking the bank. Welcome.
Hi, thank you so much for having me.
So let's start with some plants. What should we consider when starting a garden or landscaping the yard?
When it comes to selecting plants for your garden, you want to lean into native or climate-friendly plants for the area that you live. And you want to do this for a few reasons, but mostly that they're adapted to the environment and they're going to need less resources, and resources cost money. So the less you have to purchase, the better. So when it comes to watering and fertilizers, if they're already somewhat adapted, they're going to do a lot better off from the start. Another thing you can do is get rain barrels and start collecting water. It comes when it rains. If you collect it, it's a free way to water your gardens. In fact, plants absolutely love rainwater because it's free of chlorine and all the other stuff that we have in our tap water. Another thing you want to consider is bringing in pollinators, and this is going to be good for the environment. It's going to be good for your garden. Bring in the bees, bring in the birds, bring in the butterflies, and this is just going to make a happier garden overall. And of course, if you're trying to garden on a budget and get some projects knocked out, look at what you might have at your property already. Like these planters were from a fallen tree, and we cut them down with a chainsaw. We drilled them out and made them into planters, which help enhance the garden. And really doesn't cost you anything if you find it on site.
And it's a really beautiful natural look.
It's natural, yeah, it's natural, and I think they're a great way to just elevate a patio or add that extra little charm to your space.
Is there anything, Sarah, that we should do to prepare our space for planting? And what are some of the things that we can do to help the plants thrive?
Absolutely. Getting your yard ready is something that a lot of times our gardens over the winter get really overrun. So clearing out your garden first is a great way to start your gardening. So clearing it out, getting rid of the clutter, opening up your garden beds. You can use different tools to do that. You can do it by hand, just whatever makes the most sense. We're seeing a lot of people really move into actually doing like herb gardens and stuff like that too, which you definitely want to clear the area, create container gardens and or build in planter boxes.
Oh, I love gardening. Do you have any tips for people who are thinking about growing their own produce?
Yeah, when you're growing your own produce, things you want to consider. Some people only have an apartment or a small patio. So starting with something like a container garden, which is as simple as getting containers and putting them on a patio. A few things to consider is make sure they're out in full sun. You'll want to make sure that you hand water them. I actually like using a mixture of native soil and soil amendments mixed in together, and this can actually save you some money because you're not having to purchase all of the soil. You can get it right out of your yard, and a lot of times it's plenty sufficient for what your plants need, and just a little extra organic matter puts it in good shape. And also, if you're looking to save money, starting out with seeds is the most cost-effective way, especially, I don't know if you've noticed all the grocery bills getting really high. A lot of people are leaning into their garden to grow their own food.
Indeed, and it is so satisfying. But you know what else you need, Sarah?
What?
Some really great tools.
Oh, This is the fun part. So after you install your garden, you're maintaining, you've invested your time and your heart and your sweat into all these spaces, you want to make sure that you're maintaining them. And so there's a few ways to do this. I personally use the AK system from Steel. They are battery tools, and the one battery charges all of the tools. And the nice thing about them is that they're lightweight and they are low noise. So if you live in a neighborhood, you're not going to really be bothering your neighbors. Another big point on why you turn to battery to help save in your garden is it's an investment. Once you purchase the tools, you don't need to purchase fuel anymore, which is stinky, and as well as it's just a little messy and it's harder to maintain. So turning to battery is easy to maintain, and you're going to save on the future cost of buying fuel, which is great. If you have a smaller garden, you might turn to the AS system, which are these tools over here, and those are great for patio gardens or smaller areas if you're in the city.
Yep, makes you feel official.
Yes, exactly. And you know, a lot of people ask me about the power of tools as well. And when it comes to battery, they've come a long way. So this mower here, if you have a lawn in the front or backyard, this lawnmower is self-propelling, and it can actually mow the length of 12 football fields on a single charge, which is really impressive. Honestly, my favorite thing about using the tools is having interchangeable batteries. That makes it a lot easier as well. But getting in the garden is just such a great time of year to do it right now, and also getting creative with it. The garden that I actually built personally, I made it a salsa garden where we had tomatoes and onions and cilantro all in one garden. It's a great way to get people excited to get outside and get inspired by their yard.
So everyone, if you're looking to maintain your yard or growing your own food, or maybe just getting back to nature and digging in the earth, you're going to need the right tools. Sarah, where should we go for some more tips and information?
If you check out DIYtipswithSarah.com, that's Sarah without an H, you can see the different projects that we've created, as well as have some tips on gardening as well.
All right, and even though the tools are battery powered, remember to operate them safely and enjoy the summer. Sarah, thank you so much for joining me.
Thank you.
There's more to come on Talk with Audrey after this. Welcome back. Well, with so many exciting new smartphones and wireless providers to choose from, you know how hard it can be to identify which is the right fit for you and your family, and which plans would give you the most flexibility. Lifestyle expert Yvette Rios joins me now to reveal the hidden gotchas in wireless plans, along with which plans could give you the best device upgrades, the most flexible plans, and of course, freedom of switching. Hey, Yvette.
Hi, thanks so much for having me.
Oh, my pleasure. Yeah, so you gotta help us decipher this because it's a whole new world out there, Yvette. So let's start with the gotchas.
Yeah, well, it's an intimidating process for sure, but there are some things that I can kind of help you understand, help your viewers understand to make these decisions like a lot easier. So you mentioned gotchas, and there are these kind of pitfalls in the industry that you definitely need to be aware of when you're signing a device contract. So, a while back, 24-month device contracts were kind of the norm, but recently a lot of the providers have switched to 30 or even 36-month device contracts. So that basically means that you're paying for the same phone for 3 whole years. And just to put that in perspective, technology moves very quickly. You mentioned there are really beautiful, super functional, phones out there on the market. An iPhone 5G didn't exist 3 years ago. So you're just gonna, you're going to be locked into a device that likely is gonna be verging on obsolete by signing a 3-year agreement. So that's number one. So make sure you read the fine print when you're signing a contract for your device so that you know exactly what the terms are. The second thing you wanna be aware of is if you want to unlock your phones, the provider should make it fairly easy. If they add lots of pitfalls and obstacles and all kinds of craziness, likely that means that when it comes time to switch providers, they're also going to make that really difficult. So those are kind of the 2 things you should look out for when you're shopping around for a new plan.
So Yvette, what should we look for when it comes to the terms in the contract?
For sure. I mean, that's a really good question. So I think, obviously you want to compare the plans. You want to make sure the price is comparable, that the coverage, you really want to go with a provider that has 5G nationally, so you can move freely and know that wherever you go, you're going to have the same service that you're used to. So that's very important. But there are other ways and other kind of freebies that providers are offering that can add real value that you should also evaluate when it comes time to shop around for a plan. So for instance, T-Mobile, they are offering, with their most popular plans, they offer free Netflix, free Apple TV, AAA membership is also included, which I use all the time. I've got an old car, so I need my AAA membership. And they also offer free in-flight Wi-Fi on most national airlines. So if you do travel, that's a real savings that you'll have. So across the board, these are the kind of things that are really going to save you money. Not necessarily, you kind of need to look at it holistically. You look at the price of the plan, but also all those freebies so that you can figure out like what savings you're going to have in other areas of your life that might make the plan really valuable.
All right, so say you want to switch wireless providers. Is it easy?
Well, so the general trend now is to really lock you in for up to 36 months, so up to 3 years. So, the trend is to make it difficult for you to switch before 3 years are up. So, and that's what I love about T-Mobile is they've got two new, a new plan and a new program, Phone Freedom and Go 5G Plus. And basically the two of them together guarantee that you're not going to be in a device contract for longer than 24 months. They guarantee that your pricing is going to be stable when you use auto pay. It's got all those bonuses like all, that I mentioned, the Netflix and the Apple TV Plus. But the other thing that makes it really easy to switch, because you mentioned switching and how that whole process works, is that they will also offer you up to $650 to get out of a contract that you may have with another provider. And then they'll offer you up to $830 towards a new phone. So, it's really challenging to figure out what provider you're going to go with, but you want to make sure that whatever provider you go with makes it as easy as possible to make the switch. And the other thing that I think is really terrific about both of these plans is that these plans are available to not just new customers, like so many of the providers roll out all of the dog and pony show for new customers, but it also is available to existing customers. So I think that's also really important because I've been with T-Mobile for many years, and I feel like I love the fact that I have access to all of the same deals as a new customer does. So I think those things all kind of play a role in deciding how you're going to make the switch and where you're going to go.
Yvette, you've given us some great information. Where can we go for more details?
Thank you so much. Yeah, you can go to tmobile.com. They've got all the info about all the plans there, or you can just pop into one of the stores locally and have someone kind of explain it all to you. But make sure, whatever plan you decide to sign, read the fine print, educate yourself, and don't get trapped in these very long device contract cycles that are happening.
That's right, guys. You've got options. Check it out. Yvette, thanks so much for joining me.
Thank you.
And I'll be right back after the break. I'd like to invite you to follow Talk with Audrey on Twitter and on Facebook. Simply visit talkwithaudrey.com, where you can also sign up for my free weekly newsletter and for access to exclusive web content and information about upcoming shows. Visit talkwithaudrey.com. You're watching Talk with Audrey. Welcome back. Prescription drug coverage is the most frequently used benefit that employers and health plans offer, but most people don't know how to make the most out of their prescription drug coverage to get the most value out of their benefit. Dr. Christine Gilroy is Chief Medical Officer for Express Scripts, one of the largest pharmacy benefit managers, and she has information today about what you should know before heading to the pharmacy to fill a prescription and what to look for when shopping for coverage at the next opportunity. Welcome.
Thank you, Audrey.
Thanks for joining me. What are some of the challenges that people experience when filling their prescriptions?
The biggest challenges that we see for people in filling their prescriptions is first affordability. So combined with inflation and drug manufacturers raising their prices, Americans are paying more out of pocket than ever, and it's really inhibiting their ability to take their medications as prescribed. The other issue we see is around accessing their medications. If they're in a rural area, a pharmacy might be far away, or even in an urban area, it can be difficult to find the time to step away from work or family obligations to make sure that you can fill your prescriptions on time.
You mentioned that people who live in rural areas, possibly having to travel a great distance to fill prescriptions, are more people having their prescriptions mailed to their home?
It's 100% an opportunity to have your prescriptions mailed to you. And so if you haven't checked that out and you live in a rural area, that could be a really important resource to help you have your medications on hand and not have to worry about what I experienced in Colorado, which can be a 60 to 90-minute drive each way for somebody to get to a pharmacy.
Well, doctor, I've also heard that people are actually cutting pills and or taking less of the medication, which means that they're not taking it as it's prescribed.
Absolutely. As a doctor, I have seen that over and over again, where people are not taking their medication as prescribed. Their health problems are not well managed, and it increases their risk of emergency room visits, hospital admissions, and frankly, their total medical costs. The only medication that works is the medication that someone's able to take as prescribed.
And what about the cost? If pharmaceuticals are raising their prices, a lot of people are not going to be able to afford their medication, so they're not going to take it as prescribed. What can people do to keep their costs manageable?
So our observation has been that when a patient has to pay $50 or more out of their pocket for a prescription, the likelihood that they won't pick that prescription up and take it home is 4 times higher. That's why we have come out with a program called Copay Assurance to help patients know that the prescription that they get, if it's a generic, it's going to be $5. If it's a preferred brand, it's going to be $25. And even for specialty medications, it will be just $45. And those copays apply immediately. They don't have to wait for their deductible to be spent before they can access affordable medications.
Okay, that's news.
We had a lot of experience. So in 2019, we were the first company to come out with capped insulin copays. We had really seen that as the insulin prices were being increased by the manufacturer, that people were filling their insulin less frequently. And we felt it was incumbent on us to negotiate a cap for that insulin to help people be able to afford to continue to take it. And in just 2 years, we saved consumers $45 million. What we see right now is that adherence again is decreasing as copays have gone up, and it's incumbent on us to step forward and offer these cap copay programs to make sure that we're really delivering the best health and service to all of our clients. With Express Scripts and your plan sponsor, generic drugs would be available for $5 per month. Preferred brand medication would be available for $25 a month. And specialty preferred medication would be available for $45 a month.
Oh, thank you. That's huge. And it's going to be a real benefit for people who are struggling. Doctor, what should people look for if they're thinking about shopping for a new prescription drug plan?
So I think really looking for what the out-of-pocket costs are for your medications is incredibly important. Most individuals are not shopping independently though, right? They're working to get their plans through their employer. And it's really important to also talk with your employer benefits manager to help them understand the importance of having those affordable medication and how it impacts your ability to be present at work and also present with your family.
All right. Whew, guys, that's a lot of great information. As I always say, informed is empowered, and holding the line when it comes to the cost of your prescription medication is really important. Doctor, where can we go for more information?
So you can find more information about this program at evernorth.com/affordable for all.
Dr. Gilroy, thank you so very much for joining me.
Thank you, Audrey. It's been a pleasure.
And with last month, April, being Financial Literacy Month, here to announce a new women's financial empowerment initiative is financial expert Marsha Barnes.
Burnout from work and money stress is at an all-time high for young women. That, combined with inflation on basic essentials, is enough to make many young professionals feel strained. Personal finance expert and founder of the Finance Bar Members Club, Marsha Barnes, has more.
Finances are a leading stressor for women, particularly impacting Gen Z and millennial women. With access to the right resources, women can become financially empowered and reach their full potential. By 2030, Secret will help millions of young women to tackle financial stress and in turn improve their financial wellness.
The company is introducing a multi-year financial empowerment initiative so they don't sweat their finances.
The program starts by providing 1 million young women access to in-depth financial courses and training resources developed by highly renowned female financial experts. Knowing it's important for young women to have mentors that look like them, Secret has put together an amazing group of experts to help young women navigate their path to financial wellness.
For more information on the Financial Empowerment Initiative, visit secret.com/moneymoves.
And I'll be right back after this. Welcome back. Life-threatening bleeding injuries can happen anywhere at any time, and they are a major cause of preventable deaths for people of all ages. Someone, for instance, with a severe injury can bleed to death within minutes, but fortunately, many of these deaths can be prevented with proper bleeding control techniques that are easy to learn. My guest today is Dr. Kenji Inaba, chair of the Stop the Bleed Committee at the American College of Surgeons Committee on Trauma, and we're going to talk about how easy it is to learn the techniques of Stop the Bleed, a program that empowers any individual to help control bleeding injuries until help arrives. Welcome, Doctor.
Thank you so much for having me.
Tell us more about the Stop the Bleed program.
You know, this is a very compact 1-hour program, and it's essentially designed for members of the public that have no medical training at all. And it covers all of the very basic hemorrhage control techniques that can be used once that 911 call has been placed, but before arrival of the EMS providers. We know that that time period can vary quite considerably. And in the minutes that pass between that 911 call initiation and EMS arrival, people can bleed to death. And the course is designed to empower people with the techniques that are required to stop that bleeding and potentially save a life.
And Doctor, why is it important for people to learn bleeding control techniques?
That's a great question. You know, the reality is that even in 2023, bleeding remains the #1 cause of preventable death after injury. And anything that can be done to arrest that bleeding before EMS arrival can truly make a difference. And so these are very basic techniques. And as you point out, you're right. I think the response of providers to bleeding can vary considerably. But these techniques are taught in a way so that if you do encounter one of these situations, you'll be ready, you'll have thought this through, you'll have practiced these techniques, and it'll give you the knowledge and empowerment to actually intervene and get those techniques started before EMS arrives.
And what are some common scenarios where Stop the Bleed techniques can be applied?
Yeah, you know, this course was initially designed in the context of an active shooter incident where there are multiple casualties, but the reality is all of these techniques are very universally applicable no matter what the source of bleeding is. So, you know, on the way to work or to school, there can be a traffic collision at the side of the highway where there's an injury, or it can be in your own home. In the garage, if there's an accident where there's some bleeding from a saw, for example. The reality is, regardless of the cause of the bleeding, these techniques can be applied and they can be used to stop that bleeding and potentially save a life.
What does a Stop the Bleed course involve?
Yeah, absolutely. It's a very compact course. It takes about an hour. There are no prerequisites to join in on this program. There's no medical knowledge required prior to taking the course. And it's broken down into 2 parts. There's a classroom section that teaches all of the theory behind stopping the bleeding, and it moves immediately into a hands-on part that covers all 3 aspects of bleeding control: the application of pressure, hacking of the wound, and tourniquet application. Now with COVID, we have also made a completely online program. So that didactic portion and even the hands-on component can be done completely online. And regardless of which of these different programs you choose, they all contain the same basic information on these hemorrhage control techniques.
And where can we go to learn more about Stop the Bleed?
For anybody that's participating in this call today, the reality is if you go to the stopthebleed.org website, all of the information on the course itself, the different offerings, and courses that may be available in the location where you live, all of that will be available on that website. And it's probably the best first stop to go to in order to gain more information on this program.
Thank you so much, Doctor, for joining me.
Thank you so much for putting this out there.
And that's it for this week's show. I'm Audrey Adams. Join me here next week for more insightful, intelligent, and inspiring conversations and information to help you improve the quality of your life. It's all about the business of living. I'll see you next week.